This week on Rambling Sound, my guest is Kurt Yahjian, better known to most of you as Frenchy. Good to have you on board, my friend.
Oh, Glenn, great to be here. Great to be in Wildwood.
You know, it's amazing that they put this thing together in 1 year. We've got some of the top people that ever performed in the doo wop genre here being honored tonight. It's just an amazing event.
It's a thrill for me. It's an honor. And Tommy Patillo, I gotta say, has worked so hard to put this together for all of us. I know it was a dream of his for a long time, and he wanted to make sure it happened while some of these great cats are still with us. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, it's towards the end of their careers and all, but they're still here and they're still doing great shows like Jay, whom I work with, of course, Jay Siegel, one of the best, and still sounds just like his records. You couldn't ask for anything better.
We interviewed him also for Rambling Sound, and what a great individual he is, and he's just so down to earth.
He is a very humble guy, has a beautiful home, has a beautiful family, always looking out for his kids. That's what's most important. And then taking care of his fans, too. He's very, very... He wants to make sure people really have the best time they can have, because he knows how important the music is. I mean, this music, it keeps us all young, first of all. And it brings back such happiness and joy to so many people. And it's important. We want to keep that, make it right for the people.
Well, it's lasted a long time. It really had 55. Oh, Willie Winfield retiring last Saturday night. 65 years the Harptone's been doing that.
I know. And Willie's such a sweetheart of a guy. And the songs just live on forever. Just always. People want to hear all the great tunes. Tonight's going to be just a spectacular night. I know we just ran into Bobby Rydell before we came up here to do this interview. And Bobby's very excited. Of course, Lou Christie. Tony Orlando, I guess maybe Jay mentioned that Tony came in and is going to present him with his award. Tony's just a real sweetheart. And we were just talking with Dennis Tufano, too, who's going to be presenting Bobby Rydell with his award.
Nice.
Another great guy, great singer. So I'm excited myself. We were asked to perform, so the Tokens are going to sing tonight.
Good.
We'll do a number.
Take me back to when you were 13, 14 years old, and the music was a part of your life, but it wasn't doo-wop.
No, it wasn't. Actually, my first professional job, my dad was a symphony conductor, and my mom was an opera singer. My mom's still with us, thank God. She's going to be 90 this month.
Good for her.
And I was fortunate to meet an Italian composer, Menotti, Giancarlo Menotti. Just the year before NBC decided to become the first all-color television network. And in 1963, they did an all-color production of a Christmas opera called Amal and the Night Visitors, about a little crippled boy who meets the three kings on their way to see the birth of Jesus. And Menotti had recommended to NBC that they check me out because I was a singer and I looked good for the part, and I came to New York. I auditioned with about 200 other guys, and I got the gig, and in 1963 we filmed it out at the big Astoria film studios out in Queens, and they ran my production for the next 5 years on NBC every Christmas, the Hallmark Hall of Fame. It was just released publicly. The Menotti estate had never allowed Disney to make a full video cassette type copy of this performance, but someone has posted one of the kinescopes of the 63 filming of the show, and I hadn't seen it in 50 years. So it's really remarkable, and you'll see a little bit of the younger me.
Very much younger. Where was the transition from the opera and your background in that music into the doo-wop and the R&B type feel?
Well, that was 1963, and then in 1965 I started going to school at a friend of my father's was the chairman of a new art school down in North Carolina.
North Carolina Arts, yeah.
And while I was there, the North Carolina School of the Arts, the Beatles happened. And I fell in love with the Beatles and the Byrds and Dylan and Joni Mitchell and all that pop rock scene that was started to happen there, hardcore rock and roll too. And then ultimately got into the doo-wop scene when I moved to New York and met all these great folks. Of course, Little Isidore and Johnny Gale, who we're going to be honoring as well tonight. And And then all these remarkable legend performers that now I've been able to sing with and perform with. Jay and Tony. I got to sing with Tony Orlando. But back in the day, I also did work with, I can't believe it, I was on a single with the Talking Heads, Glenn. I worked a record with David Byrne and the Talking Heads, a single off of an album, Little Creatures. The single's called Road to Nowhere. Well, apparently it's very big in Iceland.
Wow.
And I just got a check for radio play on this show, this song. It's a great song, Road to Nowhere, by the Talking Heads.
We'll get it on.
So, yeah, I've been fortunate to work with a wide variety of artists.
You did Broadway. Great success on Broadway.
Yeah, my first gig when I moved to New York, I lucked out and got into the original Broadway cast of Jesus Christ Superstar, and ended up being Ben Vereen's understudy, actually. And that was where I first met Ted Neely. Ted was the Jesus understudy in the original Broadway show, and then he and I were both cast in the movie of Jesus Christ Superstar. Teddy, of course, playing the title character of Jesus. I play the high priest Annas. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and working with a great director, Norman Jewison.
Yeah, great director.
Who had just done In the Heat of the Night and Fiddler on the Roof, and then after Superstar, of course, he did the Moonlighting with Cher and Nick Cage. So great experience. I'll always remember.
And you did hair.
Then I did hair. I had met Milos Forman, the director of the movie, in a studio. I'd been asked to do pre-record for the film, and because with movie musicals, they pre-record the entire soundtrack and then you lip sync while you're shooting it. So he said, I need somebody for this number, Aint Got No. You look great. Would you want to do it? And I said, sure. I'm already in the union. Why not? And so I do a number with Nell Carter. I do a big production number called Aint Got No. And the great Nell Carter and myself and Tony Williams, too, we do a great number, a big production number in Central Park at the Bethesda Fountain there.
You also did a little sidelighting with commercials. You did Coke, you did Toyota, you did a lot of those things. Are any of those still available? Do you know?
Well, I've got them on my reel. I've got a jingle reel. They don't, nowadays most commercials, so much of it's needle drop or straight off of a record. Very few original jingles actually written. Like one of my big ones was Have You Driven a Ford Lately, which ran for 8 or 9 years. But I also did Kodak. When Kodak still made film, they had hired Cyndi Lauper early on in her career, and they used her song True Colors as one of their signature phrases for the company. And we did an exact arrangement, although it fit into a 60-second spot, of True Colors. Great, got to meet a lot of folks. Worked with Vicki Sue Robinson and
great time. It just varied your career, really did.
Right, from the mid-70s. I moved to New York in 71. Thought I'd stay for a couple of years, and I've never left yet.
All right, now you were involved, to me anyway, in one of the greatest groups of our genre is Little Isidore and the Inquisitors. First of all, talk a little bit about David Foreman. To me, I think he must have been a genius to come up with that storyline for Little Isidore. The whole thing was played out beautifully.
It was. He and a writer friend of his came up with this whole idea of him being brought up by missionaries in the Philippines and this whole character of Little Isidore. And then he hooked up with Johnny Gale, and they wrote some beautiful songs that were just absolutely in the genre. And so David said, well, we all have to have names. We all have to have character names. And, of course, Johnny Gale became Johnny Stompanato Jr., the abandoned love child of Lana Turner. And David chose this character named Little Isidore. And they named me after an old doo-wop singer from a Bronx group, the Wrens, a guy named Frenchy Concepcion. David loved that name, so they decided to call me Frenchy Concepcion II, and I've loved it ever since.
I thought about that because I knew him. He recorded on the Winley record label, and I wondered what David just he liked the name, so he gave it to you.
Absolutely, just because it was such a great name. It's a musical name, Frenchy Concepcion. It just kind of rolls off your tongue. And And I got to meet him, Frenchy,
nice.
before he passed. We did a show in Manhattan, and it was a real thrill for me. And also got to meet one of the signature songs I got to do with Little Isidore was Peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a great cover of Peanuts. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And I got to meet Little Joe and the Thrillers. That was also a real thrill for me.
Well,
too.
Peanuts by Kurt Yahjian or Frenchy Concepcion will be seen in this interview as well, because I've got that one stashed away.
Yeah, thanks
and also,
to the great Ronnie
what was
yeah.
the deal with the bald head and the ponytail coming out with David?
Well, David just decided to use what he had, and he created that incredible top knot of his and dyed his hair that jet black, and it's the best look. It was
no
best,
question.
one of the best looks in Doo Wop.
It sold the group. It really did.
It did, and then his love for that music, for this whole scene, and the way Johnny did the arrangements and produced those records. No One Gets Hurt. One of the best records of all time.
Yeah,
I mean, just great stuff. That combination, Johnny and David, was something else.
I had Johnny on Rambling Sound a couple of months ago.
Yes, I saw the interview.
Talk about an interview. He really is an interesting guy and just a neat individual.
Oh, and so talented.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! I mean, he not only in the doo wop scene, but he's worked with great artists. I mean, those couple of records he got his last Grammy nomination was for the Ryan Shaw, that's second album, and just beautiful stuff. I mean, he works with another guy, Jimmy Braylauer. They co-produced those Ryan Shaw records, and they are phenomenal.
Yeah. You also had a chance to work with Johnny Gale with a group called Kenny Vance and the Planotones. That was another whole experience there. That was a cult.
That was, and
Still is.
It still is. And 12 years I was with Johnny and Kenny. We were all together, and we created an act that was really different from any other scene. I was really proud of that. We really had our own little moment, and people loved the way we told the stories. Kenny told great stories, of course, being with Jay and the Americans way back at the beginning. He had lots of memories and lots of stories, and we just put together something special for the people. I think it was a different type of show, and people really loved it.
You guys recorded a song called "Sunny Kind of Love." Excuse me, and I heard it. I saw it on YouTube. I guess someone had done a video of you guys in the winery in New York City, one of those places.
Yes.
And I said, wow, I love that version. And I'm saying, I've heard that before. And I realized it was...
Robert Klein.
Yes, and Paul Griffin was the one that did the falsetto. When I asked Kenny, when I interviewed him on Rambling Sound about it, he said, Paul Griffin did that. And he said, I gave it to Frenchy, and I said, learn this part. And you were spectacular on it. And I think the first time you guys did it, other than in New York, was at the New England Doo Wop Society show. Because I asked you guys, and Kenny wasn't sure he was going to do it, but he did it. And you guys did a tremendous, especially you, the falsetto was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. He put that on one of his last records and had me come into the studio and do that part. We both knew Paul from the jingle business, because Paul was a very in-demand arranger and keyboard player and singer, and he did that version of Sunday Kind of Love with Robert Klein, and I think they did it on Saturday Night Live, one of the very early,
and an HBO special too,
and the HBO special, yes, and just a lovely version, and I was thrilled to be able to do it, and it came out pretty good, I got to say.
You probably would still be with the Planotones if Kenny hadn't got sick, probably, because that's what broke everything up.
Yeah, that was quite an amazing time, unfortunately, right after Sandy, and then Kenny had that medical episode, and he had to stop performing for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
And Jay Traynor was going to take some time off from the Tokens, and Jay had asked Kenny if it was okay if he would, I could fill in for Jay Traynor while he was having some work done on his problems, and we thought Kenny would be back in a couple of months. We thought Jay would be back, and it just didn't work out that way. And Jay asked me to be a permanent member of the group, and it was just, I couldn't help it except Jay's been a real supporter of my career personally, and has really let me step out, and I couldn't have asked for better.
Does it amaze you to see the response from the fans at the shows you do? I mean, that song's been #1 3 times. It's heard around the world. I mean, there's no other song like it, period. But to be on stage when he's singing that and watching the audience has got to be spectacular.
It is. And everywhere we go, we get the 3 full generations. We'll have a grandparent who brings their daughter and then their grandchild. And all 3 generations, they all know the song. It always brings a big smile to Jay's face, of course. And his granddaughter, he tells that story about his granddaughter.
He told it to me, yeah.
In kindergarten when they came out with the hit of The Lion King. So that whole phenomenon, when we see the families come and they all want to sing this song and they love singing it with us, it's a special moment. I feel very privileged just to do that for the people.
Why is this music as strong as it is? 50s, Willie Winfield, 65 years, just retired. 65 years, and it's as strong now as it was 65 years ago, if not stronger.
Yes, I think it's it's a lot of people say it's the purity of the music, but that's what it is. It's love. It's about, all the songs are about love, family, friends, and having a good time. It's the essence of doo-wop and that classic early rock and roll scene. And I think that's why it's lived so long and still is so important to people, because it's the purity of the music, and it's about the good time and how good music is for all of us.
Yeah. Well, I know we're going to have a good time tonight. Jay's getting that award into the Hall of Fame, and the Doo Wop Ramblings, the newsletter, has been recognized as the #1 newsletter.
It's
and
the
I'm
best
very excited.
thing on the internet, Mo. Everybody, keep it happening. Glenn, you do so much for our business and helping keep it alive, and I'm always grateful for being a friend and what you do for us.
Well,
too.
thank you, and you are a friend, and it makes it all worthwhile. I mean, this is what it's all about. We're trying to keep the music alive. We're doing something that we love. How much better can it get?
You can't get better than that.
Kurt, Yahjian, Frenchy, thanks for your time, and we'll catch you up down the road.
Thanks again, Glenn.